Hey there gamers, welcome back to the channel. If you're anything like me, you know that jumping into a PvP game can be a blast, but figuring out which heroes are the cream of the crop, that can take a ton of time. Well, worry no more. Today, we're diving headfirst into the world of Ludus Merge Arena to bring you the ultimate tier list of heroes. Whether you're looking to dominate the arena or just trying to have some fun, we've got you covered. So, grab your snacks and get comfy because we're about to break down the best heroes in the game. We'll explore their strengths, weaknesses, and strategies to help you make those killer choices in battle. Trust me, this rundown is everything you need to crush the competition and rise to the top. Let's get started. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking heroes in Ludus Merge Arena. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of tier list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. First of all, I'm starting with legendary heroes.
My friends, only 0.1% of viewers subscribe. If you like this type of content, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you in advance for your support.
The heroes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Druid, Buddy, Mr. Grey, and Witch Doctor. Alright folks, let's dive into the wonderful world of Ludus Merge Arena and check out some of the D tier legendaries. You know, the ones that make you go, what were they thinking? So grab your popcorn and let's break down these characters that could use a little love, or maybe a complete rework. First up, we've got the Druid. Now don't get me wrong, he's got that poison damage going for him, which can be a nifty trick if you're running a DOT focused deck. But let's face it, as a support legendary, he's a bit on the weak side. If you're looking for someone to really back you up in battles, the Druid might just leave you hanging. His poison could come in handy, but when it comes to overall utility, he just doesn't cut it. Next, let's talk about Buddy. He's like that friend who's great in a one-on-one fight, but useless when it's time to deal with a group. While he excels at single target DPS, he flops against minions, which are basically everywhere in this game. And then we have Mr. Grey. If healing were the flavor of the month, he'd be the top choice. Unfortunately, it's just not the case right now. He's a healer in a meta that doesn't value heals. Poor guy. Finally, we can't forget about the Witch Doctor. He's the summoner you didn't ask for and don't want. With his terrible buff pattern and lackluster performance, it's hard to see him making a comeback anytime soon. So, there you have it folks. These D tier legendaries are definitely not winning any popularity contest in Merge Arena. The heroes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Valkyrie, Gunflower, Rocky, Snoozemander, Mimic, Paladin, and Little Red Cap. Alright folks, let's dive into the wild world of Ludus Merge Arena and talk about some of the C tier legendaries. These heroes may not be the cream of the crop, but they definitely have their quirks that can turn the tide in a pinch. So, grab your snacks, settle in, and let's break down these characters. First up, we have Valkyrie. Now, she can be a total game changer, or a complete letdown. It all boils down to luck. If her ability lands on your tank, good luck with that. But if it lands on a powerhouse like Duckwing, you're in for one of the most epic buffs in the game. It's a gamble, but sometimes taking a chance pays off. Next on the list is Gunflower. While her buff pattern might leave a lot to be desired, her DPS is solid. And let's not forget about that stunning ability. If you can slow enemies down with her vines, she'll hit them where it hurts. Then we have Rocky, the unsung hero of strategic placement. She really shines in teams that can dish out some reliable shocks to enemies. With her nice buff pattern, Rocky can be a dependable ally if you know how to place her just right. Now don't sleep on Snoozemander. His buff pattern is impressive, but it can fall flat if you're running backline focused units. It's all about the synergy, my friends. Next, we've got Mimic, who's a bit of a mixed bag. While he can counter those pesky melee DPS characters like Kitsune, he's just too weak on the damage front to be a reliable choice. On the other hand, Paladin is like Minotaur's slightly better cousin. His buffs are decent, but not game-breaking. Lastly, there's Little Red Cap. Her wolf summon is definitely one of the best in the game, but let's be real, only spawning one per round makes her a bit less appealing compared to powerhouses like Muerta or Jelly Knight. So there you have it. C tier may not sound glamorous, but these heroes can bring a unique flair to your battles if used wisely. The heroes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Gambler, Angel, Boaris, Succubus, Treant, Imp, Fencer, Gunslinger, Lich, Gearhead, and Mummy Warrior. Alright folks, let's dive into the B tier legendaries of Ludus Merge Arena. While they might not always steal the spotlight, these heroes each have their own charm and utility that can definitely shake things up in your deck. First up, we've got Gambler. Now, this guy is a bit of a wild card. Pun intended, his buff pattern isn't the most impressive, and sometimes his ability can actually backfire on you during fights. But hey, don't count him out just yet. Gambler boasts one of the best perks in the game, making him a unique pick in certain situations. He's like that unexpected ally who shows up with snacks when you thought the party was a bust. Next, let's chat about Angel. He's a fantastic early game hero with a pretty solid buff pattern. Angel can really help you get a foothold in those initial stages, but here's the catch. As the game progresses and the damage ramps up, his healing abilities start to feel a bit like a paper umbrella in a rainstorm. Nice in theory, but ultimately ineffective when things heat up. So, while he shines bright at the start, his glow dims in the late game. Now, we can't forget Boaris. He's your go-to guy if you're looking to make some quick cash and push enemies away from melee. Think of him as your not-so-friendly bouncer at a club, ensuring no one gets too close for comfort. However, you won't often find him in the strongest decks out there. It's like having a reliable friend at a party who's not exactly the life of it. Moving on to Succubus, who's one of the standout debuffers in the game. Her charm ability can turn the tide in your favor, making her a valuable asset in many battles. Plus, her buff pattern is quite pleasing, adding a bit of flair to your strategy. She's like that friend who always knows how to diffuse a tense situation, perfect for keeping the peace on the battlefield. Let's talk about the Treant. This big guy is a solid frontline option and can stun enemies for several seconds, which is always a bonus. His buff pattern is also nice, making him a decent pick. However, the tech golem has been giving Treant a run for his money in the tank department lately, so he might not be your first choice anymore. But hey, sometimes you just want a tree to stand tall for you, right? Finally, there's Imp. This little guy might not look like much, but he's a game changer. Not only can he nullify those pesky mage support units, but he also increases the damage taken by enemies, setting up your other DPS heroes for a glorious burst of damage. It's like having a stealthy ninja at your side, quietly ensuring the enemies get what's coming to them. So, whether you're stacking up heroes or trying to find the perfect blend for your deck, these B-tier legends might just surprise you with their hidden potential. Who knows, they could be the secret sauce to your next victory. The heroes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Aqua, Nightmare, Jelly Knight, Tech Golem, Lava Girl, Mako, Monkey King, Brewmaster, Popstar, and Evil Eye. Alright folks, let's dive into the wild world of Ludus Merge Arena and talk about some A-tier legendaries that are shaking things up. These heroes may not quite hit that coveted S-tier status, but trust me, they pack a punch and can turn the tide of battle if used right. So grab your snacks and let's break it down. First up, we have Aqua. Now, Aqua is not just your average support hero, she's all about that strategic placement. Think of her as the glue holding your team together. If you pair her with fast attacking units like the Firestarter, she can really shine. But remember, timing is everything. Place her wisely and watch as she turns the tides in your favor. Next on our list is the ever mysterious Nightmare. This guy is like the ultimate assassin. With a buff pattern similar to Kitsune, he's capable of spreading fear among multiple backline enemies. I mean, come on, who doesn't love a hero that can instill dread in their foes? When you unleash Nightmare, it's like sending a shadowy whisper into the enemy camp. Chaos ensues. Now, let's talk about Jelly Knight. He might be a step down from Muerta, but don't underestimate him. He's got more sustainability, which is crucial when enemy AoE attacks start flying. Just keep in mind that he relies on his minions to survive those big hits. If you can manage to keep his little buddies alive, he can definitely hold his own in the arena. Moving on, we have Tech Golem. This guy is a legend in his own right, boasting one of the most efficient buff patterns in the game. He excels at countering melee heroes, which is perfect in the current meta, where players are ditching tanks. While he's a great pick, he's just shy of making it to S tier because of that tankless trend, but don't sleep on him, he can still do wonders in your lineup. Now, let's heat things up with Lava Girl. She's an absolute beast for single target damage. Pair her up with Draco and you've got a fiery duo that can burn down enemies faster than you can say, "Burn, baby, burn." If you need a reliable damage dealer who can take down priority targets, Lava Girl is your go-to gal. Lastly, we can't forget about Brewmaster. This guy is a game changer against attack-reliant teams, especially with popular heroes like Firestarter and Duckwing around. His DPS and buff patterns are on point, making him a formidable ally. If you want to dominate the arena and laugh in the face of your enemies, Brewmaster is the perfect choice. So there you have it, the A-tier legends of Ludus Merge Arena. Each of these heroes brings something unique to the table, and with the right strategy, they can help you climb the ranks and secure your spot as a champion. Which one are you excited to try out? Let me know in the comments below. The heroes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Draco, Duckwing, Kitsune, Griffin, Bwers. Muerta, Firestarter, Witch, and Pirate Queen. Alright folks, let's dive into the top tier legends of Ludus Merge Arena. If you're looking to dominate the battlefield and crush your opponents, you've got to know about these game changers. Buckle up because these heroes are not just good, they're downright legendary. First up is Draco. This guy is the undisputed king of AoE damage. He handles enemy minions like a pro, letting your single target DPS focus on the real threats. With Draco on your team, you can wipe out those pesky hordes and keep your strategy flowing smoothly. His efficiency is a game changer, allowing your other heroes to shine when it matters most. Seriously, having Draco in your lineup is like having a cheat code. Now, let's talk about Duckwing. Oh boy, this one's a beast. Many players consider him broken, and I can see why. With possibly the highest effective DPS in the game, his ability targets up to 10 enemies at once. When you're up against minion spamming units like Muerta, Duckwing is your best friend. He can clear out crowds faster than you can say Merge Arena, giving your team the upper hand in chaotic battles. Then there's Kitsune, a fan favorite for a reason. She's been a staple in the meta for quite some time. Kitsune can drain enemy energy, silence their regeneration, and deliver massive close-range damage. And if that wasn't enough, she even reduces the damage dealt by her foes. Talk about a triple threat. She's a perfect mix of offense and defense, making her a must-have in any serious player's arsenal. Next, we can't overlook Griffin. If you want an assassin who can take down enemies with style, look no further. Not only does he dish out enormous damage with his abilities, but he also stuns enemies and reduces the damage of nearby foes by 60%. Oh, and did I mention he's immune to crowd control? That's right. With Griffin, you can dive into the fray without worrying about getting locked down. He's a powerhouse and will have your opponent sweating bullets. Finally, let's give a shout out to the Pirate Queen. She's the complete package. Damage, crowd control, and even summons. With the best buff pattern in the game, she brings so much to the table. The Pirate Queen is basically the superhero of the arena, making her a top pick for anyone looking to dominate. When you combine her abilities with the other legends we've mentioned, you've got a squad that can't be stopped, so there you have it. These S-tier legends are your ticket to victory in Ludus Merge Arena. Get them on your team and watch your enemies tremble. Now let's move on to non-legendary heroes. The heroes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Axe Thrower, Viking, Plague Doctor, and Cannoneer. Alright, let's dive into the world of Ludus Merge Arena and take a closer look at some of the C-tier non-legendaries. These heroes might not be the cream of the crop, but hey, every team needs a little spice, right? First up is the Axe Thrower. Now don't get me wrong, the guy has his moments. However, his ability can deal low damage, and let's face it, when you're up against spammy units like the Slime, he can end up wasting his attack on those pesky minions instead of dealing with the big threats. If you're looking for a hero to turn the tide, maybe skip the Axe Thrower and look elsewhere, kind of like avoiding a bad Viking movie. Speaking of Vikings, let's talk about the Viking himself. Honestly, he's probably one of the worst units in the game. His buff pattern is lackluster at best, and that 30% damage amp he casts, it's practically useless. You might find more value in a bowl of soup. Next on our list is the Plague Doctor. Sure, he can deal some solid damage, but when you have other DPS heroes that can provide better all-around utility, he starts to feel a bit outclassed. It's like having a Swiss Army knife but only using the dull blade. Why not go for the full package? Finally, we have the Cannoneer. With his AoE attack and high base damage, he does pack a punch. However, against spread out enemies, most rare units can outshine him in terms of damage output. So, while the Cannoneer has his strengths, he might not be the go-to choice if you want to secure a solid victory. Keep these guys in mind as you build your roster. They may not be top tier, but they can certainly add a little character to your battles. The heroes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Crystallix, Samurai, Executioner, Shaman, Huntress, Fairy, Arachne, and Saboteur. Alright, let's dive into the fascinating world of Ludus Merge Arena and explore the B-tier non-legendary heroes. These units may not shine as brightly as their higher tier counterparts, but they're still fantastic choices for your strategy. Think of them as the underdogs that bring unique skills and flair to your team. First up, we have Crystallix. Now, this guy has a cool ability to stun enemies, which is always a handy trick to have up your sleeve. However, when it comes to tanking, he doesn't quite measure up to Minotaur. If you're looking for a solid frontline protector, Minotaur is still the go-to guy. But hey, if you're in a pinch, Crystallix can definitely hold his own. Next, let's talk about the Samurai. He's a solid DPS unit with self-regeneration that's available early on, making him a decent choice for newbies. However, you might want to consider Vampire, who outshines Samurai in pretty much every way. Plus, you unlock Vampire much sooner, so he's often the more appealing option for those early game encounters. Now onto the Executioner. He can be a game changer with his Fear ability, which can really clutch those tight rounds. His damage output is impressive, but let's be real, you'll often find yourself reaching for Electric Mage or Warlock instead. They just bring a little more to the table, especially in longer battles. Then we have the Shaman. This versatile hero can tank, heal allies, and buff teammates. While he has a solid overall skill set, he doesn't excel in any one area, making him a bit of a jack of all trades but master of none. On the other hand, Huntress shines with solid DPS and an excellent buff pattern, plus she can stun enemies too. This can interrupt crucial moments in battle, giving your team a much needed edge. Lastly, let's give a shout out to Saboteur. He boasts the highest damage ability among the uncommon units, and his buff pattern is nothing short of excellent. In many situations, he outperforms even the reliable Huntress. Then there's Arachne, who brings a unique twist to the battlefield by poisoning enemies, slowing them down, and reducing their damage output by 30%. This ability can really prolong fights and make your healers even more valuable. So there you have it. The B-tier non-legendaries in Ludus Merge Arena are far from being useless. They bring their own strengths and can complement your strategy in creative ways. Whether you're focusing on stuns, damage, or buffs, these heroes have a place in your lineup. Keep merging, keep battling, and unleash your creativity on the battlefield. The heroes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Franken, Jester, Slime, Totem, Crusader, Trickster, and Gorgon. Alright, let's dive into the world of Ludus Merge Arena and check out some of the A-tier non-legendary heroes. These units are absolute gems, each bringing unique strengths to the table. Whether you're battling it out or just merging for fun, knowing your heroes can make all the difference. So let's jump into it. First up, we have Franken. This guy is a total jack of all trades. He's got a little bit of everything: poisoning enemies, dealing solid damage, tanking hits, and even healing himself. It's like he's the Swiss Army knife of heroes. Plus, his buff pattern is really nice, making him a versatile choice in various situations. Whether you need some extra firepower or a reliable frontline, Franken's got your back. Next, we have the Jester, who can really shake things up on the battlefield. With her ability to taunt enemies, she can redirect attacks and protect your other units, which is super important. Now, while she does pack a punch, let's be honest, she's not quite on the same level as Bastion, but don't sleep on her. Her damage output can definitely turn the tide of a fight when used correctly. Now, let's talk about the Slime. Right after Minotaur, he's one of the best rare units in Merge Arena. His spawn ability is fantastic, providing excellent tanking for enemy attacks, especially those pesky electric mages. And let's not forget his solid DPS. The Slime is a reliable choice that can hold its own against tougher opponents, making it a staple in many team compositions. Rounding out our list, we have the Gorgon. She's a crowd control specialist who can keep enemies at bay for a long time. But there's a catch: she's pretty fragile and can be one-shotted if you're not careful. Her buff pattern might not be the best, but if you can keep her safe, she can turn the tide with her crowd control abilities. So there you have it. These A-tier non-legendaries bring a mix of utility and power that can elevate your game. The heroes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Bastion, Electric Mage, Genie, Minotaur, Warlock, and Vampire. Alright, let's dive into the world of Ludus Merge Arena and talk about some of the top non-legendary heroes that will take your game to the next level. If you thought only legendary units could shine, think again. These non-legendaries are not just here to fill gaps, they are absolute powerhouses that can change the tide of battle. First up, we have Bastion, the unsung hero of the early game. Seriously, if you're not using him, what are you doing? With his incredible tanking ability, he can soak up damage like a sponge and keep your other units safe. His taunt ability is a game changer, forcing enemies to attack him instead of your fragile DPS units. Bastion is not just a good choice, he's an OP choice for those crucial early rounds when every health point counts. Next on our list is the Electric Mage, and let me tell you, he's the absolute best non-legendary DPS you can get your hands on. With his stunning ability, he doesn't just deal damage, he stuns enemies, keeping them out of the fight longer. You'll want to hold on to him until you find that legendary DPS, but trust me, he'll serve you well until then. If you're looking to pump out damage and keep enemies on their toes, the Electric Mage is your guy. Now, let's talk about Genie, the ultimate support unit in the game. This guy has the most impressive buff pattern among epic units, and his healing and energy restoration abilities are just out of this world. You'd be making a huge mistake not to use him, especially when he can outshine many legendaries in the support role. And if you're facing a tough matchup, you'll be glad to have Genie on your side, keeping your team alive and kicking. And we can't forget about the Minotaur and Warlock. Minotaur brings the best buff pattern for rare units, with a stun ability that's invaluable for controlling the battlefield. On the other hand, Warlock can put fear into enemies, literally. He can freeze 2 foes in their tracks, preventing them from doing anything for 2 whole seconds. Plus, he gains energy with every ally that falls, making him a great partner for units like Slime. Lastly, we have the Vampire. This guy can teleport to the enemy backline and wreak havoc. With his regeneration abilities, he's capable of taking down multiple foes all on his own. These heroes might not be legendary, but they are certainly legendary in their own right. So, whether you're just starting out or looking to refine your strategy, make sure to keep these non-legendary heroes in mind. They're not just viable options, they're essential for dominating the competition in Ludus Merge Arena. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.